Hey guys, welcome back to another RepPath Podcast. Today I'm really excited about this topic, guys, because this is a reality check of, you're trying to break into the industry. It's very tough, guys. So what's really going on out there? All right. And that's what we're going to talk about. Not a lot of the myths and nonsense that people create. They like to come up with their own stories of, why it's busy or why it's not busy, why it's easy to get in and not, difficult to get in other places. We're going to go through some topics and I'm going to let you know what's really going on. So you stop with these, well-intentioned people that are giving you a lot of misperceptions about the reality of getting into medical sales. So before we do that, guys, as always, any questions from this moment on, please submit it into the chat and we'll address them about halfway through the show. And most importantly, guys, RepPath Academy. We talk about it every time. Guys, we're getting more and more people in every week. It's the bigger the community is growing, the faster it's helping individuals get in. Because all your challenges right now, when you're on your own, you feel like you're on an island. We erase that because when you're with the coaches at the RepPath Academy and all the candidates working together, the strength in numbers helps you find roles quicker. You listen to the success stories of other reps. You listen to how they handle challenges. And also opportunities that aren't even posted yet, or, even in our recruiting side of the business, they tell us sometimes opportunities that aren't even posted yet because they're having interviews where the hiring managers are saying, yeah, we're going to be expanding in these 3 cities next month. So they tell us and the rest of the candidates so we could get a jump start reaching out to those hiring managers or the other reps and be the first in mind to get those jobs. So it's so powerful, guys, to have that group behind you, that community behind you to help you get those jobs. So please make sure you go on RepPath.com, set up an appointment to sign up, and we'll get you, it's just that easy. Once you're signed up, you'll have immediate access to our modules and to be able to join us for the next live group training sessions that we have every Tuesday and Thursday. So other than that, guys, last thing, sorry, always forget something. If you want to see this podcast or any other content that we're creating, please make sure you go on my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. So subscribe, it's free. You'll get all these podcasts and more. So it's a great, great library of content for you out there. So, okay, enough talking about that. Let's get down to business, guys. Reality check, okay? It's not easy getting into medical sales. All right. So a lot of you guys out there, I'm sure you're feeling the pain where you're constantly getting ghosted. You're getting 1 or 2 interviews, but never hearing back. It's a very frustrating process. And when you're by yourself, you're wondering, what am I doing wrong? What is going on? So a lot of times you'll reach out to other reps, or sometimes you reach out, people from other industries start saying this bullshit that they don't even know about because they heard from a friend of a friend. Today, we're going to talk about those realities and then also give some solutions. And then again, halfway through the show, we'll be able to answer your specific questions. So anything, guys, from this moment on, make sure you're submitting those questions. Okay. First reality check, guys. I hear this is the comment that I'll hear. Oh, we're heading into a recession, so the job market is slow in medical sales. There's not many jobs out there. Complete nonsense. There are plenty of jobs. The reality is everyone wants to get into this industry. So it's overcrowded. So you really have to do whatever it takes to get into this industry. There's a lot of companies that have layoffs. So now you got these experienced reps that have been in the industry 3, 5, 10 years. Now they're looking for jobs. So again, when we post a job with RepPath, we'll get 300 to 500 candidates apply just within 2 or 3 days. That's a ton of candidates, guys. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of them, they're just, throwing shit up against the wall, hoping it sticks. And they don't even read the requirements. But again, there's still dozens of them that are excellent candidates for these roles. So you're competing against them. Now you got someone that has 10 years experience that now is going against you for an entry-level job. So it's much, much more difficult. So I want to eliminate that myth that there are plenty of jobs out there, but you just have to do whatever it takes to get ahead, because now you're up against that many more candidates. All right. So between, layoffs, people willing to take entry-level roles and take a couple steps back because they don't have that senior role out there available. So when they got bills to pay, they got families, they got kids to feed, you're going to say, okay, well, I won't just hold out for that $150,000 base. Maybe I'll have to take a step back and do a 120. And a few months go by and go, shit, now I might have to let me take another step back, get back to 100. Before you know it, they're going back to entry-level roles. And that's real. I'm not saying everyone's doing that, but there's a lot of people out there because there's so many people going into this industry, and there's a reason for that. It's a great industry. Okay. There's very few jobs in the world where you're sitting side by side with a physician. You make a great base. You could make an amazing comp structure overall. Your OTE can be phenomenal. You get to talk with doctors all day long. You get to work with patients. You get either a company car or car allowance, cell phone, expense accounts. You're on the road all day long. Well, that's all these reasons why people want these roles, and it's exciting being in an operating room, dealing in offices, working with doctors where they're telling you that, your drug or your device really helped their patients out. You go home at night, guys, and it's not even about the money. It feels great. When you're in those situations and you see the patients or you hear the stories, it's so motivating to go to work every day. So it's just going to make it that much tougher. But I just want to make sure, guys, again, jobs are there. But so is the competition. And the one quote that I'll have that, I actually had another recruiter tell me that most candidates, they don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they're competing against people who didn't used to be in your lane. And that meaning that all those reps that have experience now are now competing against you. All right. But that's what we're here for with the RepPath Academy, guys. We overcome these challenges. We're going to talk about the solutions to some of these. Entry level. How many times have you guys heard this? Entry level role, which to me, entry level means right out of college, no experience. Not in this world anymore. Entry level now means experience. It's stupid. I don't agree. And I'm not saying every company does this, but every time they'll say entry level role. Okay. And so anything that says associate, junior, clinical specialist, now what they're quietly saying is they want sales experience. They want clinical exposure. They want, you be familiar with an OR, familiar or have existing relationships. And it's just, it's a tough situation to be in. So but that's where we work at this ahead during the interview process, where you outwork your competition. Okay. Because you're not going against, again, like I said earlier, you're not going against someone else that just graduated from college or just has 1 year of B2B sales experience. You got someone that's 5 or 10 years medical device experience, 3 years of pharma, whatever. I mean, they have some strong backgrounds. Now you're going against them. And the way you beat these people is by outworking them during the interview process. Believe me, guys, we talk about this a lot on our podcast. But when you're a hiring manager, the worst thing that can happen is you get someone that really doesn't want that role. Because the one thing with experienced reps, they get better at interviewing. And they've been through this. They know the things to say. They know the hot buttons to press. They know those keywords that are going to get that hiring manager excited. And then sometimes they just have a lot of experience. So shooting the shit with someone that really knows that industry or that specialty, it is attractive. But they do that a lot of times. And sometimes they take roles, like for instance, when they're out of a job, they'll take 2 steps back. And meanwhile, they don't really want this role. So if someone was making 150 base and now they're looking to take a 75 base job, a lot of times, I know this gets a lot of candidates pissed off, but when you hear you're overqualified for the role, it basically means we know that you're going to keep looking. because you're not, that's 75,000. Yeah, it feels good for the first couple of weeks now that you're getting some income coming in, but then you're used to 150. Then you're going to go, screw this, I'm going to keep looking. 3 months later, you found another job for 150, you leave that company. So that makes a lot of these hiring managers nervous. But if you outwork them, if you're networking and you're speaking to the reps, you're coming up with a strategy that's specific for that territory. You're following up, in the interview, you're showing your excitement. You show them and tell them how much you want this. Guys, trust me, that's what gets younger people or more, less experienced people jobs. So that's what you have to do. And that's another reality. Again, entry level doesn't mean entry level anymore, but that also doesn't mean that you can't apply or you don't have a shot. No, it just means that you're going to be dealing with, more individuals that are going for those roles. Next, referrals. So on that same point of reaching out and networking, referrals used to be a bonus when you had someone that sent over a referral that, if you're going to Stryker, you happen to know a manager or friend that works at Stryker and they mention your name to your boss during the interview process, that was like gold. Now it's mandatory. Okay. Now you have to have that at the very least, guys. Sending your resumes in, you guys seen this all the time. The ATS systems, all the systems that get your resumes. And when you submit it online, to whatever opening, you never hear back. The reality is because a lot of people going for these roles are putting the work in and they're already getting referred by someone. So it's hard as a hiring manager to ignore a stud rep that you have, that you trust, tells you, hey, by the way, this Joe Licata, he's awesome. Okay. He's been calling me all the time. He's been telling me of what he's done in his past that really shows his persistence, his commitment. He really wants this role. He has the grit and everything that it takes for this role. And especially if you're going to work with them, it's hard to ignore that, guys. So believe me, having referrals, networking is mandatory. That's not a bonus anymore. You have to be doing that. If you're not reaching out to individuals, if you're not even getting on phone calls to talk to them, and again, we at RepPath Academy, you have to have at least 3 phone calls with 3 different reps before you get to that interview. That's always our goal. And again, that's the minimum. So if you're not doing that, you are already steps behind. Just by having a conversation with one rep and they say, oh yeah, I like you. I'll definitely push for you. I hope you get it. They'll give you something like that. Guys, no, that's not enough because everyone's doing that. So you have to do more. They have to hear your name before that interview multiple times. I mean, if people, how many times have you heard about a person, a friend of a friend that's like, oh, this guy's great, man. You go out with him. He's friggin' crazy. He's so much fun. And they become like a legend in your head. And then all of a sudden you meet them and it's like, you're so excited to meet this person. You're like, I hear he was so much fun from all of my friends. They said, this guy's great. It's the same thing. The managers, when they keep hearing about a rep, how hard the work they're putting in, how many times they reach out. Again, there's like, I heard about this Joe Licata. Now I got to meet him. That's the goal. You want to be known before you even sit down in that chair. Another real challenge, guys, is that companies used to launch a product and just place 50 reps all around the country. I mean, I'm just making up numbers just to, for this, just as an example. Before they had any sales, of course they get investor money, whether it comes from private equity or somewhere else, but they take that money and they really go full force into these territories. They'll have multiple territories in New York City. They'll have multiple throughout North Jersey. They really pack it in with sales reps. Now it's different, guys. Now companies are cutting back because they are getting pushback from private equity or whoever's funding this. A lot of times they'll take it slow. Or they're not going to, I'm working with a company right now that has 1 rep throughout all of California. That seems crazy, but this is what they're doing now. They're not just throwing money out there and then before the business is there. Now they're placing reps, growing the business to where that rep can't handle it and there's too much business to be had. Then they'll start expanding. But that's a real challenge, guys, because they're not just every company isn't just throwing reps before they have business now. So again, that's one more challenge with jobs out there, you know. And so another good quote that I have is, they're not hiring less because sales isn't important. They're hiring less because each rep is expected to do more. And that's a fact. They are putting a lot more on reps. Okay. We kind of hit on this, but the online applications, you know, again, we still all have to do it, guys, but don't think you did anything. If you just sent an application online, you submitted to a job and you left there, or you did 10 that day or 50 that day. Okay. That's great. Realize you did nothing. Okay. Nothing really happened. And I'm not sitting here saying that you're not going to get a call back ever. Of course, you know, a lot of us get callbacks because you never know who's going to receive that. But I just don't want you to stop there and be like, I did my job for the day. You didn't do anything. Okay. So stop with the mass applying. It doesn't work anymore, guys. All right. This used to work years ago because it wasn't so easy to apply to a job. I mean, when I started 25 years ago, I had to get dressed in a suit, drive over to one of the groups at the time, big, well-known recruiting group, Normal Ursling, and I had to meet with their team with just the recruiters. And they interviewed you before they would even represent you. You know, so it was almost like a realtor representing a seller. It was similar to that, where you worked with like one or two recruiters. Now, guys, you can work with 500. Get your resume out to everyone. You know, so, but everyone's doing this. So it's so saturated that that's just step one out of like 50 steps. You want to make sure, yes, you apply to roles, but you're focusing on few roles. Less is more. That is the takeaway, because you are going to put the work into each role that you're applying for. You're not just going to spray and pray. All right. We talk about that all the time too. Spray your resume out to as many people as possible and then pray that someone gets back to you. Doesn't work, guys. Okay. So less is more. Focus on less roles and then really be tenacious in networking, building relationships so you can get in front of, so those you have people going to bat for you before you get in front of that manager. But we talk about resumes, guys. Realize that managers know that ChatGPT exists. Recruiters know that ChatGPT exists. And a lot of you have to make it unique. That is the issue. You know, adjectives are a red flag. I'm not saying you can't have an adjective in your resume, but realize that everyone uses those same adjectives because ChatGPT prints similar adjectives out all the time when you do a professional summary. Again, that's okay for a baseline, but you got to add the specificity of your background into that if you want to get recognized. Because when I get hundreds of resumes a day, they all look the same. 90% all look the same. And then the ones that make it unique, they're the ones that stand out. So just think, you have 10 seconds, right? That a recruiter or a hiring manager is going to look at that resume. You know, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's going to be quick. You know, in that 10 seconds or maybe 30 seconds tops, does this resume really jump off the page? And you got to ask yourself that. Because if you have previous sales experience and all you're doing is talking about your daily activities and not addressing any sales results, who the heck is going to hire you? Who's going to pay attention to that? They're going to think that you never hit those sales achievements. You didn't have sales results and you did poorly, so they're not going to move forward. So it's got to jump right off the page, guys. Make it simple. Don't make it very wordy and verbose with all this information. Don't give a 7-sentence professional summary. No one's reading that shit, right? All you're doing is clouding up the area that they're focusing on, which is your experience and your results. They want individuals that drive results. Don't give them a novel to read that is just loaded with nothing but adjectives and daily activities. It doesn't work. It's about the results. So look at your resumes today. You know, this is what we do at RepPath. Again, at the Academy, we teach all this. We even have resume specialists that work with people to help them optimize their resume if that's all they're looking for. We do that too. So we know what the resumes are supposed to look like to get attention. We do this every day. We deal with hiring managers every day. You don't want to fall into that big pile of just generic wording adjectives. All right. So it's just a quick, it's just another very important piece that people overlook. Timing too. I mean, this is common sense, but let's be real, guys. Timing is everything. That you could reach out to me today if I'm a sales manager at Medtronic or wherever it is, and I don't have an opening. 2 weeks from now, all of a sudden an opening exists. So you want to do things in twofold when you're applying for jobs and you're networking. Number one, you're focusing on those jobs you really want, and that's where you're really spending your networking, contacting reps, making sure you get as much info, helping to build a business plan that's specific to that role. That's a big portion of what you're doing. But then you're also reaching out to managers that if it's a division or a company that you really want to work for, contact the manager there. Reach out to the person directly who could potentially give you a job in the future and get on their radar. That I'm all about, because you don't want to spend all day just contacting managers where there's no roles available. But if it's a company that you really want to be at, if there's a division you really want to be in, start building that, getting on their radar now. Do it now and contact them. I'm not saying reach out to 300 managers a day. Again, it's those jobs that you really want. And there's not an opening yet, for the Boston Scientific cardiology position in Boston. Reach out to that manager though. Get on their radar, because again, 2 weeks later, timing's everything. That opening comes up. Now you're fresh in their mind before the opening even happened. Believe me, guys, I've seen people all the time get jobs this way. Okay, so make sure you're doing that. All right. And another important thing for a lot of you younger guys too, you don't have to be someone like me who's been in the industry my whole life to post on LinkedIn. A lot of you guys don't do that. I mean, there's some great reps. I don't want to bring up their names because just in case they don't want me to bring it up, because I'm only going to give them a compliment. But there was one individual on mine that has been posting stuff all about the industry. He comments on people's posts. He gives his feedback. I thought this individual was in the industry for 25 years. He wasn't. He just started a year ago. But you could see his passion for this. He loves it so much. But now he's on everyone's radar. Again, I thought he was a manager. He's just, I don't want to say he's just, but he's a sales rep, who's only been doing this a year. So impressive. But guys, start doing this. You don't even have to be in the industry yet. You want to get in this, ask a question, repost a thought from someone else and give your own thoughts. Get on everyone else's radar. Because if they see your face, they get to know you before they even meet you. I'm telling you, you're a step ahead. And that's a resource that everyone has available, and not everyone uses it. Very few people use it. Because I'm working with candidates now. We do this. We work on your LinkedIn optimizing your LinkedIn profile. And either you never posted anything, or the last post was 6 months ago. What are you doing, guys? I mean, you can't tell me you're not on your phone. The whole world is on their phone all the time. Don't waste so much time creating the TikTok video, where, people are going to glance at it for 2 seconds. LinkedIn is by far the best resource for people in our industry. We see the stupid day in the life with the guy with his shirt off, showing his muscles, puts on his scrubs, then goes, he has his protein shake, his egg whites and some, stupid ass breakfast. He's at the OR at 6:30. He's, getting his trays ready. They never show you anything. There's nothing to help you in your job. It's just, look how good looking I look how ripped I am. And this is what I do for a living. Meanwhile, it has nothing to do with the job. There's never involved.
Joe, no wonder you haven't done a video like that. You're not good looking.
And I'm definitely not taking my shirt off in any. So, but yes, thank you, James. Great point. But honestly, that's what you see. And there's never any value, so don't fall into that trap. You want to make that video, that's fine. But if you really want to get noticed by hiring managers, give real content, give opinions on something, ask questions, show them that you're clinically curious. That is key. Clinical curiosity is sometimes trumps people that do have clinical experience. Believe it or not, because sometimes they're burnt out. Sometimes they don't have that drive anymore. And you could feel it in the interviews. They think like you're doing them a favor, or they're doing you a favor by coming there. Like, believe me, guys, if you show your clinical curiosity, hiring managers want that. So get out there and start posting. Okay. We talked about this. Here's another great point, guys. Position yourself as a risk reducer, okay? Not someone that's hopeful. If you can let managers know that you are less risky than the other candidates going for this role, believe me, that is key. And that comes from really understanding the role. And that goes back to speaking to those reps. Because if you don't have a real clear understanding, you can't walk in there, for instance, when they say, so tell me what you know about the job. Well, I know that you call on allergists, and you have to call on like 10 allergists a day. You do a lunch every, whenever you can, and maybe a breakfast now and then, and you're trying to get them to prescribe your product. Like, okay, that you could have just literally looked up on Google or found out in 2 seconds. That's not having a clear understanding. If you start out and just say, well, one of the things that I know, with, calling on physicians, access is key, and it's getting tougher and tougher in our business. So I've used this in the past. In my previous role, access also was challenging in my B2B sales role, where it was very hard to get in front of the decision makers. So I had to get creative. And so instead of just knocking on doors all day, I sent video touch points where I would actually do a video myself showing how I could solve some of their problems, introducing myself, as opposed to just sending an email, or I would work, the rest of the office where I know I'm not going to get time with the doctor, but I'm going to get time with the nurse or the office manager. And I did that in my previous role, because if I couldn't meet with the boss, I would see if I could meet with the manager or someone else at that company to get a one step in the door. Okay. So that's what they want to see, is that you have a clear understanding, and you also can show how you've solved some of the challenges that they're having in your previous role. You show that transferable skill, guys, that is everything, and you're making them feel that there's less of a risk hiring you than someone else. That's key, because whenever they're starting with someone with no experience into that entry-level role, they don't want to spend the next year holding your hand and babysitting you. They're going to be there for you. They're going to give you great guidance. Most of these companies are very good at that, but they don't want to be on the phone with you 5 times a day, walking you through every call. That would be a bad hire. They'll regret that. So realize that they're thinking that. Am I going to have to hold this guy's hand or this girl's hand every day? And make them feel comfortable that, no, I got this. I did it in the past. I know what I'm getting myself into. I was successful in my past, and I'm going to have the same success here. Again, guys, we talked about this, but we'll touch on it again. Narrow beats broad every time. No more spray and pray specific to just a couple roles every week. You don't want to waste time reaching out to 1 out of every 10 companies contacting a rep that you contacted. No, focus on 3 to 5 roles and be tenacious contacting people in those roles. Okay. So one last thing, and then we'll take some questions. Persistence without a strategy is going to lead to burnout. And that's huge, guys. A lot of you think that I'm just going to keep trying, keep doing the same thing, and eventually something's going to change. It will never change. That's why most reps give up. They keep doing the same approach. It doesn't work, but they go, hey, I've been doing this 3 months. Within 6 months, someone's going to get back to me. Guys, they can ignore you forever, and they do. All right. So the majority of the reps that are all gung-ho about this career, they try for a few weeks, try for a couple months. They don't get anything that changes, and then they give up. and they're persistent. They're good. They're applying to everything, but they don't have a strategy. Okay. We teach a strategy. We teach you guys at the RepPath Academy what's the proper approach. That's why when people call and they say, Joe, I think I need help with my resume, or I think it's my interviewing skills that's the problem. Maybe my LinkedIn profile needs updating. No, guys, we're going to cover all that. We cover everything. We make sure there's no stone unturned, and there's going to be a real strategy when you're going in to get these roles. That's what gets people roles. So it's not the just constant persistence. That's great, but without a strategy, without a game plan, you're not going to get anywhere. I have a great movie line too, James. This is a good one.
Let's hear it.
One Crazy Summer. Nope. Oh, geez. 80s movie. It's with John Cusack. But anyway, with one of the characters, remember Booger from Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. He's in this.
Okay.
And his father was a military man. It was a comedy. You're killing me because you don't know the movie, but I hope people out there do know the movie. Of course,
I was born in '88, so give me a break.
You didn't see one movie that you saw.
I've seen a lot of '80s movies, but I've never seen that one though.
You saw Revenge of the Nerds. Came out in 84.
Yes, I have. Yes, Animal House. I've seen all.
You just proved your point. You're wrong. So he says his father was a military man, and he says, without a plan, no attack. Without attack, no victory. Right? Now, again, if you knew the movie, it's much funnier because the context is funnier. But it's so true, guys. You can't win unless you have a real strategy. Just being persistent isn't going to do it. But I'll take a break there, James, while I get my voice back. Any questions?
I bet you're excited, Joe, because Devil Wears Prada 2 is being filmed right now in Brooklyn, and they're getting ready for you.
Be sick, man.
Oh my goodness, what am I going to do with you, Joe?
Wait, another one. Did you see The Godfather?
Come on, of course, I'm Italian.
Okay, it came out in 1972.
Well,
so
yeah, fair.
Yeah,
I saw 2. 3 was not that good. I still saw it.
You saw Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, they all came out before you were born.
Yes, I've seen all of those.
Okay.
Yes. But I'm saying, cut me some slack. I was born in '88. Cut me some slack. We got Marcus J. Williams. Is it even worth getting into med device right now, or should I just take this pharma offer that's on the table?
If you got an offer on the table, I'm not going to sit here and tell you don't take an offer. I mean, there's much more involved than me just giving you advice when I don't know the company. I know nothing about what the offer was, but I would 100% take an offer. If you're trying to break in and you have an offer on the table, take the offer. Okay. Now, again, pharma is a great industry. I have tons of clients that are pharma companies that I have tons of opportunities out there that people have great careers in pharma. So definitely take that offer without knowing anything else. Take it if you have nothing else on the table, but it depends on what you really are looking for. You could be someone that some reps, they don't want to be in the OR. They don't want to work till 7, 8, 9, 10 at night, sometimes past midnight. I mean, that happens sometimes for some of these device jobs. It's very unpredictable. If you want device, your lifestyle is going to be more chaotic. If you want pharma, it's going to be more structured. The pharma reps I know when I worked there, I barely missed the gym unless a manager was with me, or if I had to go on a work trip. You're going to make the gym every day. If you have kids, most of my friends that are in pharma, they're getting to their practices, they're getting to those games. So the great work-life balance in pharma, if that's for you, great. If you want the intensity of the OR and the chaos that comes with it, with the schedule and everything else, you can handle all that, then yeah, device is it. But I would never tell you to not take a role when you don't have something else there. So my advice, again, I don't know the company. I don't know any of the details. By what you told me, yes, take that role.
We got Sarah K. Chi-Town. Joe, I graduated last May and I've applied to literally 87 positions, but got 3 interviews and 0 offers. At what point do I pivot to something else entirely?
You pivot now to changing what your approach is. You don't pivot to giving up on your dream. If this is what you really want, don't give up, but you're doing something wrong. I mean, that's just a fact. I'm not here to pick on you, but the results are showing it. Something is off. It could be your resume. You applied to 80 something companies, you got 3 interviews. Those aren't really great numbers, but say your resume is going well, but now the interview, what's going on in the interview? Because guys, it's very simple. Resumes get you interviews, interviews get you jobs. You don't just apply and they give you a job. So something along that process is wrong. Are you networking the right way? Are you looking at your LinkedIn profile now? And does that really jump off the page? Do you have a headshot? A lot of people, they like to put their, they look good in a suit at a wedding, which is fine. Or there's a picture of them at the beach. Fine. I'm just telling you the one that resonates with hiring managers in this industry, is a professional headshot. You're in a professional business, guys, where you're trying to get, speak to doctors all day. Most of these hiring managers, they want professionals. I'd say all of them want professionals. So just because you look good with your shirt off and you put that in your picture, that they're going to see that. They all look at your profiles, guys. We all do. So make sure that that's up to date. So there's so many things along the way that don't pivot on your career, pivot on what you're doing.
Okay. We got Tiffany Moot. Go ahead. What?
One last point.
Go.
That's where we come into. Obviously, I know I said it 50 times on this call. I'm not shy about saying what we do at the RepPath Academy. Reach out to us. Send me an email, joe@reppath.com, or DM me here on LinkedIn, and we could talk about next steps to help you get enrolled and start having some success.
We got, let's see, Tiffany Moves. I keep hearing it's all about who you know, but I don't know anyone in the industry. How do I network from zero?
It's very simple. And most people don't know anyone. And they're the ones that are getting on LinkedIn and reaching out to people. Before you even do that, if you can honestly tell me, out of all the friends, family members, friends of friends, if you're really talking to all these people, no one knows a doctor. I mean, unless you've gone through your whole life where you never had a primary care physician, which I doubt that's possible, go to your primary care physician. Talk to them. Say you really want to get in this industry. Is there anyone that they can help you get in front of? Those doctors, they have 50,000 cards in their office. All these reps, if you said, Dr. Jones told me to call you, do you know the odds of a rep not responding to that? Because you could simply just say, hey, I'm a patient of Dr. Jones. He told me to reach out to you because I want to get into this industry. Just that sentence alone, I would guarantee you the majority of the reps are going to respond. They don't want to piss off Dr. Jones. So do that today. Just go to your primary care, ask them that, they know you're a patient. Hey, is there any cards? I'm looking to get into this industry, and reach out to those reps. Guys, it can't hurt. Besides, you can't tell me you don't know anyone, that you all have primary care physicians. Start there. But then give yourself, spend a little bit of time to think about, who else do I know in this industry? Who are other doctors, reps, friends of reps, whatever. Take a second to think about it. I guarantee you're going to come up with some names to start. And then say you don't know anyone and you don't have a primary care for some magical reason, go right on LinkedIn, guys. It's right there. All the people are on there. Everyone in the industry is on there. Start reaching out. Start connecting with people. All right. That's the way you do it.
Okay. We got, we have Mike Rep. Been in spine for 6 years. My company just got acquired again. 3rd time. I'm exhausted. How do I stay motivated when the ground keeps shifting?
Yeah, and that's a great point, Mike. I mean, it's not easy. One thing I will not hide from anyone, it's a volatile industry. The average rep isn't going to last 30 years at one company. So more importantly, do you like what you're selling? Do you like where you're at? A lot of times it's not the changes, it's usually where you are, you get burnt out when you don't like what you do anymore. And that's more of a sign than the changes, because you still have a job right now. do you like waking up and doing what you do at that place? And if the answer is, I don't know, okay, well, maybe it's time to look for something else. But for me, I would get frustrated sometimes where, things weren't going exactly what I wanted, where I wanted to go with different companies, but either I leave or I stick it out and see, maybe if there's something that I'm doing wrong to freshen up my approach. So you want to reach out to reps that are doing well. See if there's something that you can do to change some of your habits. Because one thing that's a guarantee, guys, the more money you make, there's usually less frustration in a job. The bigger your bonuses are. It's inverse relationship it's actually direct correlation to happiness. I mean, for me at least, I know the more money I made, I was less upset about things at a company. When I wasn't making as much money, when the bonus dollars weren't coming in, the commissions weren't coming in, you get frustrated. So speak to these reps that are doing well first. See if they can give you any ideas at that company to help you improve your bonuses. And typically that can help. But if you're not really happy in what you're doing every day, and if this industry is not for you because it's not for everyone, then maybe you do have to take a step back and rethink of your plan for the future.
Okay. Similar line of questioning, Tony Vascular. Joe, my commission structure changed 3 times in 2 years, always worse. Is this a new normal, or should I be running?
No, I mean, this is the new normal. I mean, it's not even the new normal. This is just normal. I mean, every company does this, so it depends on the extent that they do it. When they change a bonus structure, some companies make it so ridiculous that they either give you a goal that's so impossible to hit that they're essentially taking away your commissions. And then some, they do it where they just, prioritize one product to another, so you have to change your strategy. But this happens a lot, guys, because companies constantly have to change game plans if they're not hitting their goals, and things change in the industry all the time. I mean, if you have one product, say in pharmaceutical sales, one of your product goes off formulary at a hospital, or is its patent life is coming due, they're not going to put focus there anymore. Now they're going to refocus it on a new drug. They're going to have to change the comp plan. If you're working in diagnostics and the reimbursements are changing, Medicare drops the rates, they can't just go, hey guys, well, no big deal. We're going to keep paying you the exact amount that we always paid you. No, they're going to have to adjust, because if they do that, and it might make you happy, say, well, we're not going to change anything, and they're losing money, then everyone will be out of a job soon. So I always was, when I was on the other side, when I didn't own and I was working for someone, I always had that mentality too, that they're always trying to screw us. They're always trying to take advantage of reps, and they're the ones making all the money, and they're screwing the reps over. No, guys, majority of these companies, they're here to be a business that's profitable, number one, but they do care about their employees. So sometimes these decisions aren't the best, but if they keep paying you that same bonus, they don't change it, everyone could be out of a job soon. So, but this is part of it. There's not one company out there that I can recommend to say they never change the comp plan. They never adjust it. It's just not true. So if that's not something for you, because that's going to continue to happen, then maybe this isn't the industry for you.
Okay. Linda Surgical. I'm 52 and worried I'm getting aged out. Nobody says it, but we all feel it. How real is that?
Ageism is real, but it's not as real as you think. So again, there are companies out there, they're never going to say it. They're not going to tell me, Joe, we don't hire anyone over 40. They're never going to say that. And they're not going to open themselves up to any ageism lawsuits. But does it exist? Of course it does. I mean, sometimes companies, they just want younger reps. They want them right out of college. They want to groom them. Sometimes they want older reps. But don't have this insecurity of your age. Own it. Because age also brings experience. I have reps that have 25 years experience and they claim that, oh, Joe, I can't get a job because of ageism. All right, sure. Let's talk about it. We schedule sessions where we're doing interview prep and they're just not good. Some candidates just are not good. They need work. And I can see the red flags. Like, okay, well, a lot of these questions you answered, I wouldn't hire you either because you had a lot of red flags. So had nothing to do about your age. I never even thought about your age. But most of these companies, guys, they're going to know how old you are to an extent. They don't need to know you're exactly 47 or 45. They know you're in your 40s. They know you're in your 50s. They could tell by the years of experience that you have. When you graduated college. Some of you try to hide that. Guys, you could play that game. It doesn't really matter, by not putting the year down. It really doesn't matter. They're going to have some idea how old you are. And if you get an interview, realize that ageism is out the window just with that alone. They have a good idea when you come in there around how old you are. So don't make that an excuse. Ageism is experience. You got to use that as to your advantage. I mean, age is an experience. Age correlates with experience. So be proud of that. Talk about your accomplishments. Show them that experience has made you who you are today, which is this top candidate for this role.
I'm at a startup and we keep almost closing deals. How long do you give a company before you cut your losses?
You're at a startup and you're just about to close deals. How long do you give?
Yeah, almost closing deals.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, it depends on why you're not closing the deal. I mean, if for instance, I've worked and consulted with companies that for instance, in the hospital space, for a hospital to use your medical device products, majority of the time you have to be on their GPO. And that's the group purchasing organization that buys all the products for that hospital system. So if you're not on the GPO, it's essentially like trying to play golf at a country club where you're not a member. You might be able to sneak on once or twice to play around, but they're not going to allow you to play there every day. It's the same thing in that space. So if you're not on the GPO and the company's telling you, well, we're working on it, or they're not making any progress, or they're not going to be on the GPO now probably for another year in their estimates. Okay, that's something that is a red flag, because that means you might never get purchased until they're on a GPO, because that is a challenge. But if it's something that, things fall through at the last second, you're getting to that final decision. I mean, there's no timeline to really say, yeah, after 6 months, I would give up. That's up to you. If it's a commission only job and you don't have any more money in your bank account to float you anymore till you start getting these big bonuses, then I can't tell you, well, you only should stay for 6 months and then leave, or you got to give it at least a year. That's not my place to say that, because I don't know your background. I don't know what's going on financially. But if you love what you do, for me, I would, again, it's hard to answer, but basically you will know the signs. You'll see that, if there's always the same roadblock that someone can't purchase, if you're 3 times the price of all the competition and every doctor or hospital is saying you are 3 times the price, we will never buy this. Our budget is only this, okay, those are red flags. That's when you might want to say, okay, it's time to move on. But again, I would focus on, do you enjoy what you're doing every day? And if they're still paying you every day, is it worth it? The only way to know is for you to make that decision.
We got Matt Cardio ATL. I got fired 3 weeks ago. I was 11 years with the same company. I don't even know how to interview anymore. Where do I start?
You work with us at the RepPath Academy. Just that simple. We help people, not only the individuals that are trying to break in, we work with everybody, guys. So if you're trying to break in, if you're trying to get back into the industry, if you've been at a job for years and now you don't even know where to start, we're still here. It doesn't matter. We're going to make you a better candidate no matter which area you come from. And this happens a lot. I thought when I started the RepPath Academy, I would have nothing but 22-year-old college kids. And that's not the case at all. It's all age ranges from all backgrounds, with experience, without. And it happens a lot with individuals that have been in a company for so long. It's like you lose, you'll remember how to ride a bike again when you get back on, but it takes a second or two to get that muscle memory back, especially when you're interviewing. Like anything else, you don't do it a lot. You haven't done it in years. You're not practicing interviewing if you're not looking for a job. So that's what we do. We help you get up to speed quicker, because when you do it on your own, it just takes that much longer to have double or triple as many interviews to get the information and the experience that we can give you, from quicker with the 25 years of experience I have and my coaches have. So we are definitely the solution in that area.
EHR Eddie, healthcare IT is getting slammed too. Is the grass actually greener in device, or am I kidding myself?
You're kidding yourself. Nothing is greener. It really depends on company to company. There's not one industry, sub-industry within medical sales where devices, that's the way to go. That's where people last for 30 years at one company. There's no challenges there. There's no obstacles you're going to have to face. That's all nonsense, guys. Every industry has its own bullshit you have to deal with. Every industry in the world has bullshit you have to deal with. So don't just think that I'm going to go from pharma into device because device, the grass is greener. You could do that, and it could be a better job within device, but you got to evaluate all those other aspects, between the pay, the product, the company culture, the accessibility. You have a great product that's revolutionary, but like I said, is it on the GPOs? No. Who cares? That means they can't use it. So are they getting reimbursed? Is the doctor going to use this and get crushed with a bill, and they're going to get reimbursed only half the fee? They're not going to use it. So you have to weigh out all those factors before just jumping into device pharma and thinking that, one is better than the other. It's much deeper than that.
I got Marine Mike, Texas, TX. Just finished my service. Everyone says veterans do really well in this space. Is that actually true anymore?
Veterans, like military veterans.
He's a Marine, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. No, they love a lot of these companies. They love scholar athletes. They love athletes. They love military personnel. And the reason why they love the transferable skills that you acquire, most military personnel are going to be organized. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to have a strategy. I know my Marine friends, no matter what we do, they work the problems backwards to get the solution, and they're very intense, with what it could be, helping me put together a bed, in our house. And they have a strategy and a real plan. Me, I'm looking at the directions, I'm cursing. I'm like, oh, geez, I want to call TaskRabbit or someone else even do this friggin' thing, but they have a real game plan. So that translates very well in our industry, because it's not about just going out there and winging it. That doesn't cut it, guys. You need a game plan. So military personnel have game plans. They have discipline. They're outstanding sales reps.
Hannah STL, base salaries seem to be dropping everywhere. What's realistic expectation for someone mid-career right now?
Mid-career is very difficult to answer because, again, I'll still try, but for starting salaries with entry level, they'll typically pay low end 50, 55,000 base to the higher end of around 70. And then with bonuses, commission, you're right around 98,000 is the average nationally. So you're stepping in your first year and you're going to be on average right at that 6-figure number, which is great. Mid-career, if we're saying mid-career, about 10 years experience, it really depends. There's a wide range. I know individuals that have been in device, in less than 10 years, they're making $300,000-$400,000 a year, because it depends. You get a product, a territory, or a great rep out there that's really crushing it, sky's the limit, but my piece of advice for all you guys, that the jobs, don't be scared by lower base salary jobs. A lot of times they typically have the highest potential. So they might say only 70,000 base, and people go, oh, I want to get more than that. Guys, if you're a real sales rep, and you want to eat what you kill out there and really show what you can do, sometimes those are the jobs that pay those insane 3, 4, 500,000 a year. And then a lot of those reps don't even care about their base. All they care about are their commissions. So don't shy away from that, because that's the potential is there. And mid-career, you should have enough experience where you could take your relationships, your experience in the industry and everything else to be able to hit those numbers.
Dual Doug. My spouse is nervous about me staying in this industry. How do I have that conversation at home?
Your spouse is nervous about you in this industry?
I guess. Or maybe they had a bad firing, or
I would need to know more. That's a tough one. Why is she nervous? Is it because you've been in the industry now and you're not making any money or you're not making any progress? I mean, I don't really know what that means. That's a tough one to answer. I would need to know more information to answer that on why she's nervous. So I'm sorry about that, but I can't really, that's a tough one to answer.
I think, they followed up and said that it's because I'm gone all the time and I can't be around.
Okay. I mean, that's understandable, but is it, that might not be industry related. That could just be your position that you're in, or the past couple of roles that you've taken. But a lot of these roles, you should have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. So maybe you do look at another role for another company that you could be more local. I mean, this happens a lot with managers where they've been a manager for 5-10 years and now they want to come back to being a rep. And some people look at it like, why would you want to go backwards in your, the hierarchy of sales? Guys, sometimes they, unless you've been in these positions, it's not always as great as it's cracked up to be. It's not. If you have to travel, I mean, one of the times when I was a national sales director, I had to travel around the whole country. So getting on flights, getting on red eyes every day and flying all over the country, it drains you. So to have a territory where you're working in a couple of counties, you're home every night, you get to see your kids play, you get that lifestyle that, it's a great work lifestyle balance, then that might be what you need. So it could be something that you just start looking at other companies to see where there is less travel and you want to be more in the area. A lot of times in these interviews, guys, they get it. They know that. They know that travel is a real thing. That manager is probably going through the same shit you're going through with his wife, or with his kids, where he wants to be home and the job is taking him all over. So if that's a priority, start looking at those roles that can accommodate what you're looking for and the lifestyle you want.
The last one I got for you today, Joe, is what are some things that you see in resumes in 2026 that are outdated?
Outdated? Well, it's not really outdated. These are new trends that I would say stay away from. So you got to understand, guys, when you send a resume to me or any other, person that does recruiting, they put it into their ATS. Their ATS is their applicant tracking system. That's basically their software that collects all their resumes. Because then I could go back to that 3 months from now when there's an opening and say, hey, this guy will be a good fit. A lot of you guys, if you make it too loud with graphs, charts, I mean, I see some stupid stuff out there where people have self-assessments and they're grading themselves on like salesmanship, strategy, and it's mind-blowing that they wouldn't give themselves 100 on all these, or they think that by giving themselves an 85, it shows that their integrity, that they're honest. Guys, it's all nonsense. Stop with all the graphs and charts that don't mean anything. Stop putting your picture on your resume. They're going to check your resume out, and then they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile. 100%. Your profile should be airtight, should be top-notch. You don't need to put the picture in. Reason why I tell you all this, because the louder your resume is, when I go to save it into the ATS, some ATSs may not save that resume. Do you think the recruiter who just received 50 resumes that day for an opening is going to call you back up and say, hey, by the way, James, I tried to save your resume, but it wouldn't save. Let's try to figure this out. What's going on? Maybe you should, maybe reformat that. Guys, they don't give a shit that much. They're too busy. They're going to move on and go to someone else's resume. So the new trend, and I don't want you guys to fall in this trap, is making it too loud, too many graphics. Sometimes it confuses the ATS system where they don't save it. So get to the point, keep it simple, and highlight your accomplishments, and that'll get you a step ahead.
That's all I got for you today, Joe.
Awesome, man. Well, a lot of great questions. Thank you, James. Thank you to everyone. Again, I really appreciate this, guys. I do have an announcement for next week. Typically, we do these shows every Monday and Wednesday, as you know, at 3 p.m. Eastern. Next week, we are going to be doing only one show, but it's going to be awesome, guys. We're doing a debate next Wednesday, January 21st at 6 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be a little later, but it's going to be even a better time slot because most of you should be, at home for the day or have access, to listen either in your car or wherever you're at. We're doing a debate between two, high performing reps, one representing medical device and one representing pharmaceutical sales. And we're going to ask them some tough questions and have them debate both sides of the industry. It's going to be awesome, guys. So please make sure you're tuning in next Wednesday, the 21st at 6 p.m. to have our medical sales debate. Other than that, guys, again, as always, you guys ask a lot of great questions, but most of these can be solved by joining the RepPath Academy. So do not waste any more time. Go on RepPath.com, reach out to me. We'll get you signed up so you can have access not only to our online modules, but most importantly to our RepPath community and help you break in. Lastly, anyone that is a lobby member, please make sure you're submitting the members code Licata, Licata. You see it in the screen there. So that'll get you additional discounts. Other than that, guys, have a great week. Thank you for joining, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.